Okay, let's get into this. You've brought us some really interesting source material today. Market projections for cinematographic cameras and
That's
projectors.
right. It's the gear behind the scenes,
Yeah.
the stuff that actually captures all the visual stories we consume.
Exactly. Everything from the big Hollywood movies to, well, the latest shows you're streaming. It all starts with this equipment.
It does. And it's easy to overlook, isn't it? We focus on the story, the actors,
Uh-huh.
but the cameras, the projectors, they're the foundation, whether it's in a cinema or increasingly right in your home.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack these numbers. The sources, like the one from Cognitive Market Research you shared, give us a window into this hidden world.
Mm. A multi-billion-dollar world at that.
Right. And we want to understand what these figures tell us about where visual storytelling is actually heading on a global scale.
And the sources point to some key drivers pretty clearly.
Yeah, like what?
Well, first, just the sheer rising demand. Digital storytelling is everywhere now, and that's being fueled by, well, two big engines, really. The boom in streaming OTT platforms, but also traditional cinema production is still very much alive and
Right,
kicking.
right. It's not one or the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, you've always got the tech side pushing things forward. Constant innovation in imaging systems. Better cameras, sharper projectors.
Always something new coming out.
Always.
Okay, so it's global, it's growing, it's driven by demand and tech. Let's follow the data. Start with the big picture, the global view maybe, then we can dig into the regions.
Sounds good. So globally, the numbers show a clear upward trend. Back in 2021, the market was already valued at $2,515.7 million.
Wow. Okay, so nearly a 2.5 billion even then.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. The projection for 2025 is $200 million.
3.2 billion.
And then looking further out, the source forecasted hitting $5,107.8 million by 2033.
Whoa, over $5 billion just on cameras and projectors. That's a huge amount of investment flowing into making visual content.
It really is. And that translates to a compound annual growth rate, a CGR of 6.2% over that whole forecast period.
6.2%. So not insignificant growth at all. Sustained growth.
Definitely signifies a real fundamental increase in demand for high-quality visuals everywhere. It just shows how central visual media has become.
Which circles back to those drivers you mentioned. That demand for quality seems key.
Absolutely. The sources really hammer this home. It's that dual engine, like I said. Streaming platforms need a constant fire hose of high-end content.
Uh-huh, to keep subscribers happy.
Exactly. And then traditional cinema, even as it changes, still needs that premium top-tier equipment for the big screen experience.
So both sides are demanding better and better gear.
They are. And that leads right into the technology piece.
Right, the constant innovation.
Yeah. Think about, 4K becoming standard, now 8K appearing, high dynamic range, virtual production getting big.
All that stuff requires new kit.
Precisely. It forces upgrades. Production companies, cinemas, they have to invest to stay competitive, to deliver that quality everyone expects now. So tech innovation is a huge market driver itself.
Okay, that makes sense. Global market growing strongly, driven by streaming, cinema, and tech upgrades. Let's drill down now. Regionally, where did the source say the strength was back in 2021?
Well, no huge surprise here. North America had the biggest slice of the pie, $1,019.8 million in 2021.
Okay, over $1 billion just there. Makes sense with Hollywood and all.
Yeah, it's been the traditional powerhouse for film and TV.
And what's the forecast look like for North America? Still growing.
Still growing strong, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite the fastest growth rate compared to some other regions we'll get to, but solid. It's projected to hit $1,273.3 million by 2025.
Okay.
And then climb up to nearly $2,974.8 million by 2033.
And the main reason is just that established production base.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of film and TV production, especially now with the massive investments from the big streaming companies headquartered there. Gotcha. And the source breaks it down by country, too, right? The U.S. is obviously the giant within the region.
Absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
The U.S. accounted for $698.4 million back in 2021.
Almost $700 million.
Yeah. And that's expected to grow to $859.2 million in 2025, and then hit almost $1.3 billion, $1,291.1 million by 2033. That's Hollywood, plus the huge streaming content demand.
Okay. And Canada. We always hear about it being a big production hub,
Yeah.
tax incentives and all that.
The data definitely backs that up. Canada's seeing really significant growth. It was $217.2 million in 2021,
Right.
projected to reach $277.6 million in 2025, and then jump quite a bit to $448.3 million by 2033.
Wow.
And the source specifically mentions those government film tax incentives making it attractive, plus more local Canadian content being made too. It's a good example of how policy can directly boost this market.
Interesting. And Mexico is also showing a jump.
Yes, Mexico's growth is accelerating.
Oh, yeah.
From $104.2 million in 2021
to $136.5 million in 2025, and expected to reach $235.4 million by 2033. The source ties this into that broader trend of Latin American production hubs really expanding.
Okay, so North America, current leader, still growing steadily. Let's hop across the pond. Europe, another big traditional filmmaking continent. How does it look there?
Europe's another major chunk of the market for sure. The total there was $778.8 million in 2021.
Right.
That's projected to climb to $978.9 million in 2025, and then reach over $1.5 billion, $1,546.1 million by 2033.
And the growth rate.
The CAGR is solid, 5.9%, a little under the global average, but still, very healthy expansion.
And within Europe, the UK must be a big one.
Oh, absolutely. The UK is a critical player globally. It was $142.5 million in 2021, forecasted at $187 million in 2025, and then $320 million by 2033. Huge amount of international production happens there.
And Germany, close behind.
Yep, Germany's right up there. $132.4 million in 21, expected to grow to $170.3 million in 25, and hit $281.4 million by 2033. Similar story, strong domestic industry.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
$4 million by 2033. Similar story, strong domestic industry, attracts international shoots.
Okay. And France, with its strong film support system.
France benefits hugely from those film subsidies, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Really supports local production. It came in at $102 million in 2021, projected at $129.2 million for 2025, and expected to reach $207.2 million by 2033. Shows how cultural policy feeds into equipment demand.
It really does. And the source mentioned growth in other parts of Europe, too. It wasn't just those three.
No, definitely not. It's pretty broad. Italy, for instance, is projected to grow from about $64 million in 2021 to nearly $113 million by 2033.
Okay.
Russia from around $58 million to $107 million. Spain from $71 million to $117.5 million. Even smaller places like Luxembourg show growth, maybe smaller numbers, $10 and $17, but it's happening.
Right.
And that rest of Europe category is actually quite large. It nearly doubles from $155.8 million in 2021 to $315.4 million by 2033.
So it really underscores that this isn't just concentrated in a few spots. Investment is spreading out across the continent.
Exactly. It's a widespread European trend.
Fascinating. Okay, now the source really highlighted Asia Pacific, called it the fastest expanding region. That sounds like a different story unfolding there.
It really is. This is where you see the most dramatic acceleration. The revenue numbers are impressive. It was $547.2 million in 2021, jumps to $726.7 million by 2025, and then it's projected to surge to almost $1.3 billion, $1,281.5 million by 2033.
Wow, nearly tripling from 2021.
Yeah, and the CAGR reflects that it's the highest globally, at 7.3%. This region is really where the shifting center of gravity in content creation is showing up in the equipment market.
And China must be a huge part of that story.
Undeniably the leader in the region. China's figures are projected to go from $203.8 million in 2021 to $280.1 million in 2025, and then a massive leap to $520.8 million by 2033.
Over $500 million just in China.
Yeah. The source points to the boom in their domestic productions, just the sheer volume. Plus, they're doing more global collaborations now, too.
Okay. What about Japan? Mature market, strong history,
Yeah.
still growing.
Still growing steadily, yes. From $112.5 million in 2021, projected to $140 million in 2025, and then up to $217.5 million by 2033. Solid growth.
And India, we know Bollywood is huge, but is it broader than that?
Oh, yeah. The source anticipates rapid growth there. It was about $55 million in 2021, expected to hit $78 million by 2025, and then nearly triple to $158 million by 2033.
Triple.
Yeah. And it's not just Bollywood. It's also the massive rise of digital content creators, regional language cinema. It's a very dynamic scene.
Makes sense. And South Korea, K-drama and K-pop have exploded globally. Is that reflected?
Absolutely. South Korea shows strong growth projections from $75.5 million in 2021 to $99.5 million in 2025, and then reaching $172.9 million by 2033. That directly mirrors the success and investment in K-drama and film export. They need the high-end gear for that global audience.
Right. And Australia and Southeast Asia are part of this regional boom, too.
They are indeed. Australia is forecast to basically double, from $30.4 million in 21 to $62.3 million by 33. And Southeast Asia, countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam growing steadily too, around $26.5 million in 21, up to $34.4 million in 25, and $45 million by 33.
So Asia-Pacific's story is just rapid, widespread growth across the board, driven by all sorts of content.
That's the picture, yes. Diverse and accelerating fast.
Okay, let's head south now. Latin America. The source mentioned accelerating investment there, too.
Yeah, and a key factor seems to be increasing government support for local film and TV production across the region.
Ah, okay, like in Canada.
Similar dynamic. Brazil is the biggest market there, projected to grow from $49.1 million in 2021 to $63.4 million in 2025, and expected to hit $104.1 million in 23. Solid growth.
And Argentina.
Also growing nicely. From around $19 million in 21, 18.9 M, to $24 million in 25, and then reaching $38.4 million by 33.
And Colombia. That feels like a country we hear more about for content now.
Definitely. Known for its growing industry, the numbers show a significant jump. It was only $7.7 million in 2021.
Right.
Projected to $10.6 million in 2025, and then expected to more than double its 2021 size, hitting $20 million by 2033.
Wow, quite the increase. And smaller markets are growing fast, too.
Yeah, the source specifically flags Peru and Chile. Peru goes from about $5 million, 5.2 nearly, to over $13 million, 13.1, by 2033. Chile from nearly $13 million, 12.8 M, to almost 29 million, 28.6 M in the same time frame.
So Latin America is definitely a part of this global expansion story, gaining momentum.
For sure. Production capabilities are clearly spreading there.
Okay, last region. Middle East and Africa, a very diverse area. What's driving the growth there, according to the source?
It seems to be a mix of things. New media investment hubs popping up, big cultural projects that often include building film and TV infrastructure.
Ah, okay. Like nation building through media.
Sort of, yeah. Egypt, for example, is projected to grow from $6 million in 2021 to $7.7 million in 2025, and then reach $13 million by 2033.
And Turkey stood out.
Turkey's highlighted as a standout.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive growth trajectory. From $13.5 million in 21 to $17.6 million in 25, and forecast to hit $30.3 million by 33. It's a strong regional producer.
And the rest of Middle East.
That category also shows growth, from $5.7 million in 21 to $7.2 million in 25, and up to $12.5 million by 33. And the source specifically mentions investments in places like the UAE and Saudi Arabia driving that. Strategic efforts to build content sectors.
Right. Okay, so if we pull all these threads together, North America, the big base, still growing. Europe, solid expansion. Asia Pacific, really surging. Latin America, accelerating. Middle East and Africa, building new hubs. It paints a really dynamic global picture.
It absolutely does. It reinforces what the source suggested at the start. You've got this powerful mix, booming local content demand, more international collaboration, all fueled and enabled by constant tech advances in the cameras and projectors themselves.
And it all points back to that core idea. Visual storytelling is just becoming more and more central everywhere.
Exactly. As digitally becomes the main way we get entertained and informed, the tools needed to create high-quality visuals, the gear we're talking about, aren't just in higher demand, but that demand is spreading out geographically. It's scaling up in basically every region the source looked at.
So we've taken this deep dive, looked at the numbers. I mean, the sheer scale is one takeaway. Over $5 billion projected for this market by 2033. It's a massive foundational industry, but kind of invisible to most people just watching stuff.
It really is a silent partner, isn't it?
Yeah.
But tracking the investment in these tools tells you so much about the ambition and the volume of visual stories being created globally.
And thinking bigger picture, if this high-end equipment is becoming more accessible, more in demand everywhere, like the regional breakdown shows, what does that mean for the kinds of stories we're going to see? And the amount?
Well, it strongly suggests we're moving into a time where really high-quality productions will come from many more places around the world. The means of production, historically concentrated, that seems to be genuinely spreading out.
Which leaves a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on after we wrap up. As these tools for top-tier visual storytelling get more sophisticated, more in demand globally, fueled by this market growth we've been talking about, how might that fundamentally change who gets to tell the big, impactful stories, and where those stories actually come from in the years ahead? Something to think about next time you press play.
Okay, so Let's unpack this. We're diving into the invisible backbone of visual storytelling.
Exactly. The world of professional cinematographic equipment.
Yeah, the cameras and projectors that, well, bring the movies and shows we love to life.
We've been sifting through some market research on this industry.
Right, and our mission is really to pull out the most impactful insights for you. Like, what technology is powering this huge explosion of content we're seeing everywhere?
And what does it all mean for how stories actually get told?
Yeah.
Well, what's fascinating here is just how much the content landscape itself is driving it.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Fascinating here is just how much the content landscape itself is driving everything. I mean,
Yeah.
a massive force is the sheer growth of streaming platforms, these OTT services.
Netflix, Hulu, all of them.
Right. They're basically locked in this battle for subscribers.
Constantly adding new stuff.
Constantly adding and expanding their libraries. I mean, think about how many new shows and films pop up, like every week.
That's a lot.
It requires a huge amount of production, and that directly translates into demand for cameras, for projectors.
Especially the high-end gear.
Especially gear capable of delivering that high-resolution cinematic feel people expect now, even at home.
Right, it's not just more content, is it? It's this push for higher technical quality, too.
Absolutely, even on our home screens.
Yeah.
And this ties directly into the rapid advancements in imaging technology.
Pushing towards higher resolution.
Yeah, pushing towards super high resolutions like 4K, which is pretty common now, but also 6K, and even 8K. It's about sensors that can capture incredible detail, work better in low light,
Better color.
reproduce colors with amazing fidelity. And this tech isn't just on massive Hollywood sets anymore. It's becoming sought after by independent filmmakers, production houses all over the world.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, there's also this significant boost coming from regional film projects,
Right.
particularly across Asia Pacific and parts of Africa, too.
So local content production is growing.
Yeah, often with government support promoting cultural stories. And that increases the need for different kinds of gear.
Like what?
Well, you see demand rising for more compact cameras, maybe even weather-resistant ones.
For different locations.
Exactly. Needed for diverse locations, whether that's shooting in, say, vibrant city streets or really remote landscapes.
Okay, so we have this massive global demand. It's fueled by streaming, this quest for higher quality.
Sounds like a booming market. But surely there are significant challenges.
Yeah, this raises an important question. What are the hurdles? And probably the most significant restraint is just the sheer cost. Cost of entry, cost of operation.
The price tags must be huge.
Premium grade equipment like those high-res cameras we mentioned or the newest laser projectors. It requires a huge upfront investment.
Which must be tough for smaller players.
Incredibly difficult to manage, especially for smaller studios, particularly in emerging markets.
And it's not just buying it in the first place, right?
No, exactly. The technology changes so fast. You buy a cutting-edge camera today, and in just a few years, maybe even less, newer models with significant improvements are available.
So your gear feels outdated quickly.
Right. That rapid evolution means equipment can feel outdated really fast, creating pressure to constantly upgrade.
Which adds up.
Definitely. This short life cycle really bumps up the total cost of ownership and makes it tough to get a long-term return on your investment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Precisely. Plus, operating this advanced equipment isn't just plug and play.
You need skilled people.
You need highly skilled professionals,
Right.
cinematographers, lighting experts, projectionists who really understand the nuances.
And if they're hard to find or expensive.
Well, then you can't fully utilize the potential of the gear, which just adds another layer of challenge.
Okay, so demand is high, the tech is amazing, but cost and the speed of change are real obstacles. Stepping back a bit, what are the truly transformative trends shaping how films are actually being made and seen right now, beyond just better specs?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. A major shift is towards virtual production, using what are often called XR stages.
Right, those giant LED screens on set.
Exactly. Displaying real-time digital environments that integrate directly with the camera.
So it replaces traditional green screen work sometimes.
It can, yeah, and it changes the entire production workflow, sometimes offering significant time or cost savings over, say, a complex series of location shoots or heavy post-production effects.
Interesting. What else?
And then there's a kind of well, maybe democratization happening with cameras themselves.
How so?
We're seeing the rise of compact, full-frame, mirrorless cameras that are adapted for cinema work.
Smaller, lighter cameras.
Yeah, smaller, lighter, but with those large, high-quality sensors previously only found in much bigger, much more expensive systems.
Like which ones?
Cameras like the Sony FX3 or the Canon R5C, for example. It means creators, from YouTube filmmakers to documentary crews, can achieve a truly cinematic look without needing huge, complex rigs or large crews.
Lowering the barrier a bit.
In some ways, yes. And finally, in how we actually see the films.
In the cinemas.
Yeah, laser-based HDR cinema projectors are rapidly becoming the new standard in theaters.
Okay.
Companies like IMAX and Dolby are adopting these because they just offer superior brightness, contrast, and color range compared to the older lamp-based systems.
So a better viewing
It's
experience.
fundamentally improving the immersive experience for the audience, yeah.
Okay, so to quickly recap the forces at play then, the explosion of streaming content, the relentless push for higher quality driven by tech advancements.
And the rise of regional film production.
These are all huge drivers for this market.
Definitely.
But the high upfront cost of equipment
And the challenge of that rapid technological obsolescence.
remain significant hurdles, big ones,
Yeah, absolutely.
and the exciting transformative trends. They range from cutting-edge virtual production techniques
To increasingly powerful and portable cameras.
right through to those stunning laser projection systems in cinemas.
So what's fascinating here, really, is how these diverse elements, the demand for content, what's technologically possible, and the economic realities are constantly interacting.
And reshaping the tools available.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about, buying gear.
Just more fundamental.
It's about the evolving accessibility and the potential of visual storytelling itself, how stories can be told and by whom.
Right. So given how quickly this technology is changing and how it seems to be lowering the barrier for some gear while the absolute top-tier stuff remains incredibly expensive, what does this accelerating pace of innovation mean for the future gap between, say, independent filmmakers and the large studios?
That's a really interesting point.
It raises an important question for you to consider.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.